Glory to Jesus Christ. Slava Isusu Christu. My name is Peter Galadza. I'm a Ukrainian Catholic priest of the Eparchy of Toronto, and I also have the great privilege of being the Cool Family Professor of Liturgy at the Sheptytsky Institute of Eastern Christian Studies at St. Paul University in Ottawa, Canada. The reason that I'm speaking to you today is because it's now been 10 years since the launch of this book, the Divine Liturgy and Anthology for Worship. It was published 11 years ago, but the actual launch took place in early 2015. And after 10 years, it seemed right that I finally, as editor-in-chief of this publication, answer some of the questions that people have posed to me during this past decade. I plan to do that in a series of YouTube videos. So this is only part one. We'll probably go up to at least maybe part 30. These will usually be 5-6 minute clips. And today's topic is a topic that may seem rather mundane for something as important as the Divine Liturgy, but it's actually the topic that gets raised most often, at least in initial discussions regarding this publication. The question is, why is this book so big? And I think the reason that people are inclined to pose that question is because they're, of course, used to using a little pamphlet or a much smaller book that is available in a lot of Ukrainian Catholic parishes. And I want to begin to answer that question by pointing out that actually, believe it or not, this book is not as big as you may think. I mean, it's certainly bigger than the little booklets that are in a lot of our pews, but already 15 years ago when we started work on this project, I visited all sorts of communities to see what kinds of books they had in their pews. So I went to Protestant churches in addition to all sorts of Roman Catholic communities. And it amazed me that the size of those books was hardly minimal. And to prove my point, that in other words, our book is not actually all that big, I want to draw your attention to two recent publications done under Roman Catholic auspices. These are just published in the last 2 or 3 years. Both of these books, which by the way are used in an outstanding Roman Catholic parish that I'm familiar with, both of these books are actually required to have a fulsome approach to the Sunday or festal Eucharist, or also weekday Eucharist. And I was curious to know how they stack up. I mean, certainly in terms of size, they're higher. They're not necessarily much thicker, but they're certainly taller books. And I weighed them this morning, and believe it or not, our Divine Liturgy and Anthology for Worship weighs 816 grams, whereas this just one book, remember you have to have two in many Roman Catholic parishes. You'd have these two books. This one weighs 1 kilo and 42 grams, so 1,042 grams, and this one weighs 1 kilo 97 grams. So you can see that some of the exemplary Roman Catholic parishes that some of us are very committed to emulating, at least in terms of their better practices. I mean, they've got pretty weighty books. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that there are other Eastern Christian churches. This is a book published by the Ruthenians several years ago. It may be a little bit lighter. I didn't have a chance to weigh it this morning, but it's certainly more substantial in terms of its size. This is a Greek Orthodox pew book. In any case, the fact is that most of our parishes have pews. So you've got a worshiper standing there. For better or for worse, because of the existence of these pews in many of our churches, most of our churches, once it gets difficult for them to be holding this thing, they can just put it down. But this, however, leads me to what is ultimately the real gist of today's presentation, why is this book so big? There's a theological, ecclesial, in other words, church reason for this. And it has to do with the mandate that is given to us by the universal teaching authority of the Catholic Church, which tells us in the Vatican II decree, it's actually a constitution on the sacred liturgy. That mandate is that all of our faithful be enabled to participate in worship fully, consciously, and actively. And if you want to learn more about this whole dimension, you can go to the website of the Sheptytsky Institute. Now we posted at the end of this part one clip today, and hear an entire lecture that I presented at the University of Toronto last October on how this publication, the Divine Liturgy Anthology for Worship, relates to that Vatican II mandate. In either case, next week I'm going to be continuing with some aspects of this question of size, and then I want to get into an aspect of this book that is very, very important, and that is that at the time of its publication it received the endorsement of the then primate of the Ukrainian Greco-Catholic Church, Patriarch Lubomir Huzar. So stay tuned. Hopefully you'll be willing to watch each one of these segments on this book each time they appear. I plan to upload them regularly at the Sheptytsky Institute website, which you can see on the screen. And until then, may the Lord indeed enable all of us to participate in the glorification of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit fully, consciously, and actively. Thank you very much. Glory to Jesus Christ. Slava Isusu Christu.